me a second. I'm trying to share the window. Okay. So this is the video. There is no audio to it. Watch very carefully and try to see what happens with respect to the audio recording. Yeah, you're downloading the audio recording. Don't do it yet, just watch. Okay, so that's what is supposed to happen. Give me a second here. Let me stop sharing that screen and share my general screen with you. Oops. Right. Okay, so you can now download, print, and check the exam paper. Do not attempt the paper until you are told to do so. Then go to the audio location, as was just presented by Mr. Ng in the video. Play the audio recording for a few seconds, like it was just done, just to double check that it is the audio recording and it is audible. Stop the audio after 3 seconds or 4 seconds, and then stay on the cover page and wait for further instructions. So download the audio, download the 3 documents, the data file, Part A and Part B, the PDF files, print them out, check the paper. Do not attempt the paper until you are told to do so. Wait for the instructions to start working on the paper. In the meanwhile, after you've printed them, as I can see some of you flashing the paper, write your name, class number, and group number that you're in on the question paper, single-lined paper, and the answer sheets. Check your question paper to see that there are no missing questions. The words "end of paper" should appear after the last question. If you have no problem, leave your question paper with the cover page on top and wait until you're told to start. Again, double check the audio recording.
Excuse me, sir. My printer is not in my room, so may I go out and look for my...
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
And another general word of reminder, when you do ask a question or have a query, please state your class number, followed by your name. We're trying to log things down and trying to do multiple things at the same time.
Mr. Dasani, I have 6004 Childhood, and my printer is also outside.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
That was perfectly done by Chaho Lam. Class number, as it appears on the screen. Again, check all the pages. Make sure you're plugged in, and you're using the electrical socket so that you can make the necessary, you won't have any technical difficulties insofar as battery is concerned. Remember, keep your cameras on. We'll be checking every second. This is an audio recording, so please keep yourself on mute. If you have a question, you could throw it in the bubble, right? The meeting chat room. If you have an issue with the paper, for example, Part A, question 2 of the first item, right? Throw it there to me so that I can see and check. Otherwise, just keep going and do not disturb others, because that would be difficult to trace. Please keep your cameras on. Please keep your cameras on.
Mr. Desmond,
Yes.
I am 6J13. May I go and get a portable charger for my iPhone?
Sure. Now, as the screen you see, this is the only
Part
screen I
A.
see as well.
Situation.
If I'm not mistaken,
Mika Wong is a
6D,
secondary student.
number 10.
She is also the
So camera
editor
on.
of the school newspaper.
Yes, my camera is on.
What I see on my screen is just. So this is a.
I see myself.
Sorry?
I see myself on the screen.
Okay, so yes. So the first page of mine is a 7x7. The second page of mine is a, right now, 4x4. That's only 66. 65. The three people are not in view. Three
Mr.
people.
Desmond,
Yes.
sorry, that should be -2 because I and you are also in the screen. So that means only 63 of the students are switching on their camera only.
Thank you, Miss. Miss Lau.
Mr. Desmond,
Yes.
I'm 6J number 10.
Yes.
And I had some internet problem and I failed to load your files.
You can't download them.
Yeah, it is still loading. But it's not on the phone.
You mean it's still downloading, right?
Yeah, the page is totally full then.
Page is totally blank. Could you just could you download it again?
I think I might open Teams again.
Open Teams again? You mean you want to get out?
Yeah.
Part A. Situation. Mika Wong is a secondary student.
I'm sorry, Mr. Daswani. I'm 6013. I need to get my printed paper.
Okay, and when you come back, just tell me 6013, I'm back.
Okay. Thank you.
So, if something like this happens, you need to go to the toilet, just message me. And when you leave the room or if something anomalous happens, that's perfectly okay. I just need to log it down. And then when you're back, let me know, because I'm seeing 49 pictures, I'm seeing 68 people there, and it's difficult to track you. So just tell me either through audio or through typing it back. I know it's a slight inconvenience, but we need to log things down.
Is that Mr. Desmond?
Two people speaking at the same time. Yes, who are you?
I'm 6J number 8. I want to ask because
Mika Wong is a secondary student. She is also the editor of...
listening clip. So maybe I need to switch to another app to underline the keywords.
Did you not print it down?
Yeah, I didn't print it out.
I think you have to be on screen all the time. So you either find another device.
Like the device I'm looking for the questions, not the one I'm opening the camera.
on for a second. I'll answer your question in a second. Anybody has a problem with the paper or the audio recording?
Hi, Mr. Daswani. I'm 6J13.
Yes.
I haven't finished printing my paper and I can't load my audio file.
You can't load as in it's still downloading, or what do you mean by you can't load?
Like, I started loading it and when it's like 80-something% complete, it's just popped out of the app and I just need to load it again.
Okay. I'm not going to start immediately. 6J number 8. I'm taking note that you have to go off screen because of whatever you're doing, right? And you're reading the text from your screen. Is that right?
Yeah, because the Teams cannot, I cannot open two Teams windows at the same time.
Right.
So if I play the clip, I cannot see the questions.
Sure. Okay, got it. Any other problems? Please don't start yet.
Mr. Daswani,
Yes.
this is 6015 speaking, and I'm having the same problem that the classmate just now experienced. And I need to open 2 windows at a time, so I may not be able to open my camera on Teams, but I'll upload the recording on my phone once the examination is finished.
Right, got it. Thank you.
I'm 6013 is back.
Thank you.
6004 is also back.
Thank you. So now, before we move on, anyone else have any technical issues, especially with the audio recording?
Mr. Daswani,
Yes.
6J number 10. My audio clip is still
It's still downloading.
yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Daswani, I am 6C Hoyer
60, which number?
19.
19, yes.
My printer doesn't work, so may I use soft copy and same light paper?
Sure.
Thank you.
So will you be on screen?
Yes, I'm
Okay, great. Okay, anyone else with any technical issues? I do not know why we have 69 attendees.
Mr. Daswani,
Yes.
I'm 6J13 and I'm now printing my data file and there are no other issues then.
Okay, so when you're done, just give me a shout out. Has everyone downloaded their audio? Is everyone in the right room? Yeah, there's 69 of us because Johnson is with us. So they're all 68 of us. One last call. Anyone with audio downloading issues? Anyone with the printing issues? Pending.
6J13 最后一句 is printing data file.
Excellent. Okay.
6J number 10 is also printing data file.
Okay, got it. Just want to be fair so that we all start at the same time and not everyone's interrupted.
Hi, Mr. Daswani. I'm 6013. Can I just use my single line paper to do the task 5, task 6, and task 7, like for the part B?
Because
Because I can't print that much paper down. I only print the part A and data file. Can I just use my single line paper to do the part
Sure.
B?
Sure.
Yeah.
When those of you using single line paper, whoever it may be, please make sure their margins do not write on the left. Have at least a 2-inch margin on the left and a 1-inch margin on the right, so that when you scan these documents, that it's easy for us to mark and easy for us to see and read. Don't write from margin to margin. Just keep a margin on both corners.
Okay.
Thank you. This applies to everyone.
I'm 16, I think there's some problem with my printer, so maybe I need a few seconds to print my report.
Sure. No problem. When you're done printing the data files, let me know so I can start. Please, as a general reminder, keep yourselves on mute. And
Mr. Daswani, do we need to check again the numbers of the students about the camera? Because I still have 65 of students marking the screen only.
right. Who does not have their screens on? 6J08. Who else does not have the screen on?
I have all my camera.
Yes. 6J08 will not have. Yes, 6J number 8 will not have her screen on because of her technical issues. 6D number 15 will not have the screen on because of the same technical issues. Who else?
Mr. Daswani, this is 6015 speaking, and I'm also experiencing the same technical problem, so I may not be able to be on screen.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. I trust all of you have printed it out, and that our audio recording is all downloaded. If there are no further issues, I'll give you 3 seconds to identify them. Okay, it is 11:10. You may now start.
Part A, Situation. Miko Wong is a secondary student. She is also the editor of the school newspaper. You will hear several conversations involving Miko discussing various issues related to the upcoming issue of the newspaper. In Part A, you will have a total of 4 tasks to do. Follow the instructions in the question answer book and in the recording to complete the tasks. You will find all the information you need in the question answer book and the recording. You now have 2 minutes to familiarize yourself with tasks 1 to 4. Task 1. Nico is meeting with Winston and Claire, 2 of the writers for the newspaper, to talk about the next issue. Listen to the discussion and write the information in the spaces below. The first one has been provided as an example. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 1 minute to tidy up your answers.
Morning, Winston and Claire. I hope you both had a great weekend.
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Miko.
Good to hear. Now, as I told you on WhatsApp, I called this meeting just to update you on the progress of the next issue and to get your views on a couple of things. If we're going to get this thing published on the 25th of November as scheduled, we need to start getting down to some serious work. There are still quite a lot of things to do. And, of course, as this is the 100th issue, there's even more work involved. I mean, usually we just publish the newspaper online, but this time we're actually printing it as well.
Oh, really? So it'll be in print?
Yeah, Claire, that was decided like a month ago. Don't you remember?
That's the first I've heard of it, but it's awesome, of course. Totally old school. So, have we settled on an extent then?
Yeah, we're aiming for 18 pages.
18 pages? Okay, so we'll need about, 12 articles?
Yes, we'll have 4 pages of other content and then the front and back covers. So, yeah, 12 sounds about right.
And how many of those have we done so far?
Only half, I'd say, which is why there's still a fair bit left to do, as I mentioned. Fortunately, Principal Kwan will shoulder at least a bit of that responsibility. She just told me she'd like to write a guest editorial.
We don't usually have guest editorials though, right?
No, but if Principal Kwan wants to write one, then why should I refuse her? Besides, it's the anniversary issue, so it makes sense for it to be a bit different, don't you think?
Yeah, sure, by all means.
Principal Kwan had another request as well. She's asked us to write a story on mobile phones, or rather on the school's policy regarding these devices.
Yeah, no mobile phones are allowed in classrooms. So what? That's hardly newsworthy, is it? It's been the policy for years.
Yeah, but you see, they're actually changing the policy. Now they will be allowed if they're set to silent mode.
Oh, really? That's great news. And I always set my phone to silent mode anyway, so that's not a problem for me at all. Any idea what brought about this change?
Apparently, some phones have been stolen, so students have been saying they want to keep their phones on them at all times.
Yeah, my friend Susie had her phone stolen just a week or so ago. It's shocking that something like that should be happening at our school.
Yes, indeed it is. We might be able to do an additional story on that, actually. By the way, that brings us nicely to your suggestions for articles for the upcoming issue. Have you managed to come up with some ideas?
It was quite a challenge for me, to be honest. I've written so many articles already, I kind of feel like I've used up all my ideas.
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes too. The more articles you've written, the more of a challenge it becomes to think of new ones. What about you, Claire?
Not to rub salt into your wounds or anything, Winston, but it wasn't hard for me. I can't really take the credit for that, though. I was just lucky enough to get some good suggestions from other students.
Okay, and what were these suggestions you got from other students?
A friend of mine suggested doing a story on the topic of cyberbullying. So I was thinking we might be able to find some students who've had personal experience with this issue.
I'm not so sure. I have a feeling we'd have problems finding sources for a story like that. It's not really something that a lot of people are comfortable talking about, especially if it's to do with their personal experience.
Yes, finding sources who are willing to talk about sensitive issues is always quite a challenge.
Okay, fair enough. So, what about VR in the classroom?
VR, as in virtual reality?
Yes, exactly.
Isn't the school considering introducing that?
Yes, that's what I heard as well. Which is why I thought it'd make a great story.
I think you might be onto something there. If the school is considering introducing VR in the classroom, then it's definitely something we should cover in the newspaper. Good work, Claire.
That is the end of task 1. You now have 1 minute to tidy up your answers. Task 2. Listen to the second part of the meeting, in which Miko explains one of her story ideas to Claire and Winston. Listen to the information and complete the notes below. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 1 minute to tidy up your answers.
Okay, so I've done a bit of research on possible stories as well. One topic that I think would be great for this issue is the Youth Thrills Centre.
The Youth Thrills Centre? Is that something we should be familiar with?
No, Winston, don't worry. It's not something I'd expect you to be familiar with. I'd never heard of it myself until I read about it online. You see, it's not actually in Hong Kong. It's in Queensland, Australia. And it's an after-school activity centre.
An after-school activity centre? Okay, I see. So homework, exam cramming, that sort of thing? Doesn't strike me as a riveting read exactly, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that's just the thing, though. It's not at all like after-school centres in Hong Kong. And it's really taken off, both with teens and parents. It seems the main appeal for the teens is precisely that it's not focused on academic study. Instead, it's all about recreational activities.
Sounds like my kind of place. So what sort of recreational activities do they organise?
Oh, loads. Of course, this is Australia, so they take the kids surfing, and they organise wildlife encounters and stuff like that. In other words, they organise a lot of outdoor activities, which is another reason why the centre has become so popular.
And how has this gone down with the parents?
They seem to love it just as much as the teens. Mostly, I think, because it provides a safe place for their kids to spend their time.
I'm not sure I'd call a centre that organises surfing and wildlife encounters a safe place to spend your time. I mean, This is Australia. They have crocodiles and sharks.
Well, that's all relative, I suppose. Anyway, the centre has also become a hit because they don't charge underprivileged kids anything to attend.
You mean poor kids?
Well, yes, but that's not a very politically correct term anymore, you know. If we're going to do a story on this, we should definitely use the word underprivileged rather than poor.
Sure, you're the boss.
That's the spirit, Winston. Now, the Youth Thrills Centre isn't just for teens. They also arrange some activities for younger kids. So while the most popular activity for teens is probably the shark cage adventure, for younger kids it's...
Whoa, hang on just a second there, Miko. The shark cage adventure? Seriously? I was only joking earlier when I mentioned sharks and crocodiles. Are you really saying they dropped the kids into the ocean with a bunch of sharks?
Yes, apparently. But as the name suggests, of course they're in a cage. And they need their parents' permission to do it.
Sounds awesome, but I'm pretty sure my parents would be of a very different opinion.
Yeah, mine too. Anyway, this activity is obviously just for the older kids. There's another activity they organise for the younger ones. Their most popular one, in fact, which I really like the sound of. It's called a nature scavenger hunt.
Sorry, a nature what hunt?
Scavenger. That's SCAVENGER, which basically means...
Oh, I did one of those when I was like 10. It was really cool. So are the kids split into teams, or do they work individually?
I was just getting to that, Winston. So, yeah, first of all, the kids are split into teams of 3 to 4. Then each team is given a list of items.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I remember the items we had on our list were all from nature. A feather, a pine cone, and some...
Yes. It can basically be any type of item as long as it can be found in nature without too much difficulty. And then, obviously, the teams try to find as many of the items as possible in a forest. I mean, there's a time limit, of course, but yeah, that's basically how it works. So what do you think of this story idea, guys? Do you think it would make a good story for our anniversary issue?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, wouldn't it be awesome if we could have a centre like this in Hong Kong? If we publish a story about the Youth Thrills Centre, a student might actually be inspired to start one up right here in Hong Kong. Not right away, obviously, but maybe when they get older.
I don't think that's very realistic, to be honest. I think it's more likely that students might find the story depressing. A centre like this would never work in Hong Kong.
You're such a pessimist, Claire. Just you wait. Give me 10 years and I'll have one of these centres up and running for sure.
That is the end of task 2. You now have 1 minute to tidy up your answers. Task 3. Miko and Claire are interviewing 2 members of the school's science club for the story on virtual reality in the classroom. Listen to the conversation and write the information in the spaces below. The first one has been provided as an example. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 1 minute to tidy up your answers.
Thanks, guys, for agreeing to talk to us today. We're doing a story on virtual reality in the classroom, and we figured who better to talk to about that than the members of the Science Club. Claire, do you want to go first? You had some questions about equipment, right?
I do, yes. I have to warn you both that Miko and I are complete newbies when it comes to this topic, so we'll need you to fill us in on all the basics. So could you start by just outlining what is needed if we want to start using VR in the school? Yes, Eric.
Well, the first thing you need are some mobile phones. I guess perhaps the students could just use their own, if the school is okay with that. The mobile phones then need to be inserted into the VR headsets.
And I take it those are quite expensive, right?
Many of them are, yes, but there are cheaper options as well, like the Google Cardboard, for example, which just costs like 50 Hong Kong dollars.
Oh, really? Then that sounds like just the one for us.
Yes, it's a sensible option for sure. Anyway, you'll obviously also need some 360-degree videos for the students to watch on their headsets.
And where can we get hold of those?
Oh, there's a bunch of them available online, either for download or for streaming. The only thing is, if you're going to stream videos to a whole class of students, you'll definitely need a fast internet connection.
Oh yeah, good point. I hadn't thought of that. So, what about the actual uses of virtual reality? How could it be implemented in a classroom environment? Yes, Simon.
I think one of the best uses of VR is for field trips. Well, virtual field trips, that is. I mean, with VR, students can visit exotic locations they would otherwise not be able to go to, because it would be too expensive, or even too dangerous in some cases.
Yes, and by visiting these exotic locations, I guess the students can step into the shoes of people in other countries.
Yes, exactly. That's a pretty major benefit of VR as I see it. And it's great from an educational perspective, of course.
It sounds like this would be rather a sedentary activity, though, wouldn't you say?
Sorry, what do you mean by sedentary?
That the students would be sitting down and not moving. Field trips are supposed to be an opportunity for students to get outside and move around, rather than just sit inside the classroom.
Oh, but students might still be able to walk around outside, even with the VR headsets on, if that's what the teacher wants to do.
Really? Okay, that might be all right then. So, Eric, what do you see as the best use of VR in the classroom?
I think it'd be awesome to use it in history and science lessons.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting idea. I guess if you use VR in a history lesson, it lets you travel back in time, as it were.
Precisely. It'd be like virtual time travel. Can you imagine how awesome it'd be for students to experience historical events firsthand, rather than just reading about them in some boring old books? And then in science lessons, students could travel to distant planets or to the depths of the ocean. Well, not actually travel there, but you know what I mean.
That does sound pretty amazing, but I'm a bit worried about the videos that the students would be watching, though. Some of them might be unreliable. I mean, the facts in them might be inaccurate.
Well, yes, but there are textbooks that aren't reliable as well, aren't there? The teachers would just have to make sure that they pick videos of a high quality.
Yes, that's a good point. Thanks so much, Eric and Simon, for educating us about virtual reality.
That is the end of task 3. You now have 1 minute to tidy up your answers. Task 4. Miko is writing a story about unusual school clubs around the world. She is doing a phone interview with Kyle Larson, the chairperson of a school club in California. Listen to the interview and answer the questions below. Please note that you do not need to answer in complete sentences. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 3 minutes to tidy up your answers. Yo.
Hello, is that Kyle?
Yep, speaking.
Hi, Kyle. This is Miko from Hong Kong. Thanks so much for agreeing to talk to me about the Happiness Club. It sounds like such a brilliant idea for a school club.
Oh, hi, Miko. Awesome to finally speak with you. And yeah, the club's been quite a success. I couldn't be happier. Oh, well, I guess I could really. That's sort of the point of the club.
Yes, as the name suggests. That was actually the first thing I wanted to ask you. What is the actual point of the club? Is it really that simple?
Well, yes and no. Of course, we want our fellow students to be happier, but the club's aims go a bit deeper than that. A few of my friends and I got talking about the fact that student morale at the school was quite low. So we came up with the idea of this club in order to try to raise it.
Wow, that's incredibly considerate of you. So, has it worked?
Yes, I think it really has. And that has inspired us to broaden our activities a bit. We're now also trying to help reduce stress among the students. Obviously, those two things are quite closely related.
Yes, certainly. So, you mentioned club activities just now. What are those exactly?
Oh, all sorts. But we spend a lot of our time wandering around the school offering free hugs to our fellow students. You wouldn't believe how appreciated that's been. And we also post encouraging messages all over the school, on notice boards and stuff like that. We've also organized a bunch of one-off events, such as our Naughty Happy Art Project.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that in your email. So what did it entail?
It was pretty straightforward, actually. We went to an art supply store and bought like 500 pieces of chalk of all sorts of different colors. Then we all gathered at the school after everyone had gone home, and we...
Oh, so you went to the school when it was closed?
We did, yes. That's why we called it the Naughty Happy Art Project. Anyway, we then drew all these inspiring pictures on the floor of the central courtyard of the school.
Really? You drew pictures on the floor of the school?
Well, yes, but it was an outside courtyard. The students all loved it, but I can't exactly say the same for the school management. Our school principal, Mr. Richards, talked about it at morning assembly the next day and called it vandalism. He said it was no different from spraying graffiti on the walls. How ridiculous. The rain washed all the chalk away just a couple of days later, so it was no big deal, really. How can it be vandalism if it gets washed away by a little bit of rain?
I see your point, but I have a feeling my school principal would probably agree with Principal Richards. Now, you mentioned in your email that the club was recently awarded a grant. Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Yes, the Better Together grant. That was a huge honor. The company that sponsors it is all about improving community spirit. So they give out the Better Together grant to fund organizations that work toward the same aim. And just last month, we got it. It came as a surprise to everyone in the club, but it's definitely improved things for us in all sorts of ways.
Such as?
Well, the most obvious one is probably that we can now afford to organize bigger and more impactful events. We have a pretty big one on the go, but it's all a bit hush-hush at the moment. So unfortunately, I can't tell you any more about it right now. Something we weren't really expecting, though, was the change we saw in the school management's attitude toward us. After we got the grant, we've certainly also gotten more respect from them. I guess they finally realized that we're actually doing something which is worthwhile and should be encouraged, rather than opposed.
That's great news indeed. Thanks so much, Kyle, for talking to me about your awesome club. I'm sure our readers will love this story.
That is the end of Task 4 and of Part A. You now have 3 minutes to complete your answers to Task 4 and to tidy up all your other answers. Part B, Situation. You are Harley Cheung. You work for the Hong Kong Photography Museum. You assist Mr. Justin Hong, the museum's general manager, who has asked you to do some tasks. You will listen to a recording of a video conference between Dr. Eleanor Choi, the chairperson of the museum's board of directors, and Justin Hong. Take notes under the appropriate headings. Before the recording is played, you will have 5 minutes to study the question-answer book and the data file to familiarize yourself with the situation and the tasks. Complete the tasks by following the instructions in the question-answer book and on the recording. You will find all the information you need in the question-answer book, the data file, and on the recording. As you listen, you can make notes on page 3 of the data file. You now have 5 minutes to familiarize yourself with the question-answer book and the data file. The recording is about to begin. Turn to page 3 of the data file. Good morning, Eleanor. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me today. I've got quite a few things I need to update you on.
My pleasure, as always. I'm rather looking forward to hearing what's going on at the museum. I've been out of Hong Kong for a few weeks now, so I've fallen behind a fair bit. I know there's a fantastic sounding exhibition on at the moment, though, which I'm really looking forward to checking out when I get back.
Yes, the Rural Urban Exhibition. It is indeed fantastic. And it doesn't end until Sunday, the 22nd of December, so you'll have plenty of time to attend.
Oh, I'll definitely be back before the 22nd of December. I've got another week here in Taipei and then a conference in Tokyo, but after that, I'm heading straight back home.
That's great to hear because, you actually promised me you'd give a talk at the exhibition.
Oh, right. Yes, I did, didn't I? Wow, that feels like such a long time ago now. I'd actually forgotten. But don't worry, I've got my notes somewhere on my phone. Hang on just a second. Oh, yes, here we go. I'll be perfectly honest, I don't have a very clear idea of the specific theme of the talk just yet, but I've settled one at least. City aesthetics.
City aesthetics. Let me just spell that out for Harley, who's taking notes of our chat. That's AESTHETICS. So, when would be a good time for you to give this talk, do you think?
Well, if the exhibition ends on the 22nd, and that's a Sunday, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, then why don't I give the talk on the Friday, which would be the 20th? Would that work for you?
Yes, the 20th would be perfect. Let's aim for that then. 5:30 or thereabouts?
5:30 is probably a bit too early, I'm afraid, but 6:30 I could probably manage.
Okay, 6:30 p.m. it is then. Really looking forward to hearing it.
Well, I hope I won't disappoint you.
Hello.
And speaking of speeches, haven't you got one coming up as well?
I do, yes. At the Asia Photography Guild's annual dinner.
Oh, yes, that's the one. What will you be talking about?
I'll be talking about digital cameras versus film cameras.
Which one do you prefer?
I'm a fan of film cameras, but I have to admit that digital cameras have indeed a few advantages.
Such as?
Well, because of digital cameras and camera phones, people are now taking more photos than ever before. And that's an advantage in some ways, at least.
Yes, I suppose, though you don't sound very convinced.
Come on, Eleanor. I'm trying to be fair here. Anyway, something that is undeniably an advantage is that digital cameras have enabled a democratization of the art form of photography.
And by democratization of the art form, I assume you mean that more people can now afford to take great photos?
Yes, exactly. Before digital cameras entered the scene, you needed really expensive equipment to take truly great photos. That has certainly changed, and I think that's an improvement in some ways. But of course, you know where I stand on this. I obviously think film cameras are better from an artistic standpoint, and I plan to spend the second part of my speech outlining why that is the case.
Okay, you've lectured me on this topic on a number of occasions already, so I think I have a pretty good idea of the arguments you'll be making. Aren't you a bit worried, though, that this might come across as, how shall I put it, arrogant?
Well, that's why I'm planning to start this part of the speech by really stressing that this is my personal opinion. The audience is welcome to disagree with me, but my personal opinion, as you know so well, is that film cameras are definitely better than digital cameras. Anyway, let's move on. I also wanted to update you on the museum's new cinema.
Oh, yes, the cinema. Remind me again why we need one of those. We're a photography museum, right?
Yes, But there are some good reasons for us to have a cinema. First of all, we will use it to screen art house films. There aren't very many cinemas in Hong Kong that screen art house films at the moment, so I think this is very important. Also, we will use it for talks and seminars. We've got quite a few of those, as we just discussed, and I think a comfy cinema is a much better venue for talks and seminars than an exhibition hall, which is what we've been forced to use in the past.
Okay, fair enough. But how much is this going to cost? Cinema equipment doesn't come cheap, does it?
No, it's not cheap exactly. Our budget for the cinema is $250,000.
$250,000? $250,000?
Well, yes, but that's Hong Kong dollars, obviously, not US dollars.
Oh, it'd better be. That's still a huge amount of money.
It'll be worth it, though. Trust me, Eleanor.
Well, I trust your judgment, of course, Justin, but whoa, that's a lot of money.
Okay, maybe we'd better change the topic. We've also got our new photography anthology coming up. The new book I told you about before you left. Remember?
Oh, yes, about abstract photography, right?
Yes. The title is Art in the Abstract. So it'll feature abstract photography. In other words, photos that obscure the subject in some way, for example, by blurring the image.
Art in the abstract. I like that title. So we don't want realistic-looking photos then, I take it, with clearly defined subjects, only photos that obscure the subject?
Yes, that's exactly it. Many of the photos that have been submitted so far have indeed been rather realistic-looking, so they don't fit the brief at all. Hopefully, we'll have enough truly abstract photos submitted before the deadline.
And what is the deadline?
The 29th of November.
Oh, but that's just a week away. Why don't you simply extend it? By a week, say.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. So that would be the 6th of December. Okay, excellent. That'll give us a bit of breathing space. Good suggestion.
Well, it seemed like a pretty straightforward solution, but I'm of course happy to help. Right, I've got a meeting in about an hour, so I better get going. Or was there something else?
No, that's all for now. Though I'd really appreciate it if you could try to nail down a topic for your talk as soon as possible, so we can start doing the promotion for it.
Certainly. I'll have a think about it later this evening and let you know what I come up with.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Eleanor, and enjoy the rest of your trip. That is the end of the listening component of this paper. You will now have 1 hour and 15 minutes to complete the written tasks in Part B. An announcement will be made when time is up.
I look up from the ground to see your side.
Okay, it's 11:59. You should have played through the entire thing. The audio should be off by now. You have 1 hour 15 minutes to complete Part B. 1 hour 15 minutes, which means you will end the exam at 1:14. 1:14. once again, you should be already working from 11:59 to 1:14 for the examination of Part B, all 3 tasks. If you have an issue, please put it in the meeting chat. you have 15 minutes left. 15 minutes. 5 minutes left. Make sure you've written your name, class number, and group number on the question paper and the answer sheets, especially for those of you using your own single-lined paper. Please make sure you write your name, class number, and group on every page. When the time is up, you must put your pens down. Marks will be deducted if you continue to write or have a pen in your hand. Check to ensure that you have all unwanted materials, have been crossed out. Time is up. Put down your pens. Time is up. Put down your pens. You must not write anything or have a pen in your hand. Marks will be deducted. You have now 15 minutes to submit all your answer scripts and rough worksheets. Take pictures of your work or scan your work and upload it to the work to Teams. Remain within the vicinity of your camera and please remain quiet. You can contact Johnson at IT_support at ssc.edu.hk.
Do we have to separate part A and part B?
Just submit it all together.